Hey Seamus, even though this is a Nintendo podcast, do you want to talk about games journalism and yourself for about 50 minutes, then get into a bit of Nintendo chatter?
Yeah, sure, why not?
What's up everybody, welcome to the House of Mario, episode 32. I'm your host, Drew Agnew, and joining me today is a very special guest, a good friend of mine, Seamus Mullins. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me so much. I'm really excited to be on the show, to be part of it.
Today we're going to be talking about whatever we're going to talk about, then we're going to go to the Nintendo Direct.
Like, there's a lot of news. There's like, I think some of the biggest news that's happened so far for this year in regards to Nintendo. So we've got a bit to talk about.
We do have a bit to talk about. But first up, Seamus, I want to talk about just what we went through.
Sorry, Drew and I haven't seen each other for a while, so we're just giggling whenever we look at each other.
Well, that little schoolgirl's like, "How you going?" At school, we went to school 5 years ago, or when did we graduate?
Well, it's 2008. We've graduated 2012, so this is the sixth year.
Fuck.
That we've been out of high school now. My God, yeah.
Goes quick.
And like did we meet each other in kindy originally?
Kindy or early primary school?
Yeah, I think it was kindy. And then like we became friends like a couple of years properly into primary school. And then we were just like very close best friends for like most of primary school, all of high school. Yeah, and then like we just hated each other for the past 5 years. And this is kind of a very reunion podcast for us, yeah. Just like a lot of murdering each other's families and, and stuff.
When I get home, I'm going to have to paint over all the I hate Seamus in my bedroom wall.
There's a lot, yeah.
No, what I want to talk about is the last 5 years or so after high school, you've really been concentrating on your video game writing. You've been writing for multiple sites. Yeah.
Well,
it's only single player.
Press start.
You listen. You've got a lot better.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's been quite a journey. And there's more to go into for sure. But just some of the websites that I've written for over the last couple like 3 or so years in particular is onlysingleplay.com, a very like US based, but there was a international team. That was the first website I really wrote for as part of a team. I was with them for several months in 2015, and then halfway through 2016 I started writing for Press Start Australia, which is, I still think, one of the best Australian video game news sites for Australian perspectives on prices, release dates, editions, like politics, the industry, so many things. I was with them for like over a year, and more recently, Drew, I've started doing more freelance writing, actually.
Yep.
Would you like me to say Like,
go ahead, go for it. Yeah.
Like, sorry, just lost my train of thought. More recently, like I said, started doing more freelancing since I've sort of left Press Start Australia, for websites like IGN, and just a week ago, 2 weeks ago now, I had my first article published on IGN.com.
Yeah, congratulate. Like, I was over the moon when you told me about this, honestly, and I think I saw it before you posted it. I saw it on Twitter, like by the actual IGN Twitter.
Oh, cool! Yeah,
and I was like, "Holy shit, here it is!"
Yeah. Oh man, like it's like I said, it's been a long journey. And like you said, since like the last 5 years, like it's been something that I've been working towards. But like first year out of high school, like I had no idea what I wanted to do. And like throughout high school, year 12, final year, like when everyone's like, doing subjects that they're meant to be doing that's similar to their interests, like I just didn't know, and similar to you as well. And at the end of year 12, got my results and everything, and still had to like choose courses at uni, and I still didn't know. And then a friend, close friend, Rowan Godwin, was like, "You love games, why don't you just make them?" And I was like, whoa, like that just makes so much sense. And then I went to Flinders and I did computer science for a year, and it was really fucking hard. and it was very programming heavy as well, which I honestly thoroughly enjoyed a lot. Did like just very beginners computer science, did networking, learned a few languages. Did a couple of things like databasing, web design, and development as well. And I enjoyed a lot of it. But after my first year, I just felt like it just wasn't quite what I wanted to be doing at that time. But it gave me really good perspective about, not just about games, but just about technology in general. Because before that, like, I knew nothing about computers. I knew nothing how they worked. I just used them. And so after a year, like, I had such a great perspective on technology and to a small extent game design as well. And then towards the end of the year, I just felt the urge to start writing. I hadn't really done that much writing before. Like, I played games my whole life, but it wasn't until in year 12 when you introduced me to Podcast Beyond, and which is very dear to both our hearts and many of our close friends as well. And that's when, like, I started really following the industry and, like, looking at what games were coming out. Because I still remember, like, going to an EB Games and just, like, looking in, like, one of their, like, discount bins and just, like, Portal 2, never heard of it. I guess I'll go home. I guess I'll give it a go. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, I did that up until year 12 and then started actually following the industry and listening to Podcast Beyond and going to IGN and other websites very frequently and, like, looking at games industry news. And I feel like that time was when it was becoming more prominent. Like, IGN and stuff had been going already for a really long time, but I feel like at that point it really started to become a bigger thing on the internet as well. Like, just crazy amounts of people really listening in and checking out, like, news, like, weekly, daily, for, like, announcements and stuff, which previously, I think before, was a lot of people were similar to me, where they just game would come out, they go to EB Games and just check it out.
Yeah.
And before that, it was magazines. And so if you weren't reading magazines, like, you wouldn't know what's going on until you went to the store and looked. And getting into the industry more and having a great following and, like, and looking at games beyond just games, if that makes sense, rather than it's just like a pastime, something that, like, I really started to appreciate the finer elements in video games much more. And you and I and other friends would be discussing it, like, on a daily basis at high school. I don't know if we even did any, like, work really. We were just,
I don't think so,
listening to podcasts, watching anime, K-On! Drew and
especially 2012. That was the prime for the 3DS and Vita as well.
Oh yeah, as well.
So I just used to have them with me and my phone or iPod Touch, whatever it is, and listen to podcasts.
I remember you having a Vita and, like, playing yours, and I was just like, I just wanted to play more, and so I got my own. Yeah, and so we were very PlayStation centric back then. Yeah, very, very, and so that really got me interested in games more. And then I went and studied it, and then after that, after the year of studying, I just started writing a bit about games, and I was just like, I enjoy writing. I like games. Why don't I start doing this? And it's really funny looking back on that now. Like, it was on Blogspot or Blogger.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. And I had a blog on that, and, like, I only did like 3 or 4 posts on it, and, like, I think it's still out there somewhere. Don't try and find it. Like, just don't. And it is funny looking back at that, and that was late 2013, and now we're early 2018. So, it's over 4 years later now, and, like, how far I've come from just doing blogging by myself and then doing a Bachelor of Media Journalism and, like, really getting into it. And, like, whenever I had the opportunities to have, like, choice about what I would do with my assignments, it would always be game focused. And then because of that, I started writing about the Australian games industry a lot in particular. And it was around that time that, like, a lot was actually happening in Australia. After the recession, and a lot of AAA series were closing. Like, the last one, the 2K in Canberra, closed in 2014, and I remember that. And then the Interactive Games Fund being closed down, and, like, I was actually doing reporting for that as part of my studies, and it was something I really enjoyed. And I was like, okay, like, this is something that I really like. This is something that I really want to do and, like, pursue and do more and more. And so it was more of a study thing in my first year of uni, and then my second year, I actually went out to try and find websites to write for, because I love being part of teams, and I found onlysingleplayer.com. And do you remember much of onlysingleplayer.com or me sharing the articles?
Yeah, I read your articles when you posted them.
Yeah. That was it's a really cool website. And it's like, I think it's a nice little niche and focus as well. And there's a lot of really cool people there. And actually, the guy who started it now, he's doing a really cool thing similar to Danny O'Dwyer's NoClip, but it's called Gameomentary. But much lesser known. But they do the same thing. They do documentaries of games and studios, and really
Well,
good.
as a part of the website, or he does it elsewhere?
It's actually separate from Only Single Player now. The original owner, he's not involved with it anymore. He sold it off, and now he's just doing Game Inventory, and it's really, really good. And so it's funny, like the connections you make years ago when you're starting out, and like how they evolve and change.
Everyone branches out, and
and eventually people just do different things, and it's really special to see where they go. So I was at Only Single Player in 2015 for about 4, 5, 6 months. This was the first time I covered E3 for a website, and that was a really interesting experience, and like being involved in a team for the first time as well. And like the more I was doing this, the more I was like, yeah, I really enjoy this.
Yeah. So how'd you find that? So that's your first year covering E3. Was it what you would think it would be, or?
Yeah, to an extent. Like there's a lot of nuances to video game coverage, particularly when it comes to events and like how much is going on. And you think of something like if you really follow like games industry news, and you would see at E3 like IGN's War Room, where they just have like dozens of desks and computers set up, and like they've got people running around on the floors all the time. But during like conferences in particular, when there's so much news dropping, they've got like dozens of people there covering the news. But that also includes people who are just getting screenshots, who are doing GIFs, who are doing titles and headlines, and then the people who are actually writing it and making the articles happen, and then people pushing out to social media. Like there's a lot going on. And so just doing it for onlysingleplayer.com with a smaller team, like it was similar where we had people who was doing those similar kind of roles, but there was just a lot more to do because there was a lot less of us. So that was a really interesting experience. I found it through the website. I think it's videogamejournalistjobs.com, and there's just like websites just list like opportunities for websites. So if you're interested in games writing and just want to find and be part of a team and get experience, that's a great place to go. It's mostly volunteer stuff, but there is some paid stuff there. Be wary of stuff where it's like, paid for clicks, or I've been in situations where I've seen and heard people like have to get to 1,000 or even 10,000 views on an article, and then they'll get like a payment of $20 or maybe $50, and that's gross. That's like really, really gross.
That's not going to pay many bills either.
No, and it's just I feel like it forms a really a toxic environment. So it's better that you are in an environment where it's like you understand what you're getting into, and I know a lot of people would say that, and I've come around to the idea more that like about working for free and whether that's a good thing or not, but I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't work for free or volunteer. But I knew what I was getting into it. Like the websites I worked for, they profited from it. People had sometimes full-time jobs or making money from advertising stuff. I understood that, but I just wanted experience. I wanted to work in a team, and some would say that's a sacrifice you make. I didn't really mind because it was something I did in my spare time. It wasn't something that I was like doing full-time, and I'm not making any money. It was something I was just doing to a degree for fun and getting some experience, and I think that's fine. Like, that's what most people who cover games do, really. Like, there's not that many people who are actually employed full-time at Kotaku or IGN, Polygon. Like, you round it up, like maybe it's a couple thousand, but in the whole world, that's not a lot of people.
No. You got to make sure they don't take advantage of you as well.
Yeah.
Like, so you get exposure, but that's not necessarily true either. Like, depends on the website.
It depends. I feel like obviously exposure gets thrown around a lot, and it's a very dirty word, and not just for games writing, for like any creative thing, for doing design, for various things where you're in a situation where someone else is making money and you're not getting paid. But I feel like you can just be in a position where you can use it to your advantage. So if you like, I have a link now to my portfolio of work at onlysingleplayer.com, and similar to Press Start. And so, if I'm applying for an actual job now, or when I'm going to editors and they're like, well, show me what you've done before, show me you have experience. Like, here's hundreds of articles that I've written for websites and showing my growth as well. And they're like, oh, like they can visibly see that because there's a timeline. They can see dates when it's posted and stuff, and that's great. There have been instances in websites, and I can't remember one recently, where like the editors were like real toxic, and when someone would leave, they would, like, the main person would just put his name on all their articles and reviews and stuff. Like,
oh god,
there's always things like that, and regardless of the industry, there's always gonna be stuff like that. And it's not often. Most people are really nice and wonderful, but just keep an eye out for that. And that's that's one of the things I've had to navigate a bit, and it's not easy finding a place to call home and where you fit in really well and really jive with a team. Like, it takes time, and I feel like I'm only really getting to that point now after years of volunteering for different websites. So after I left onlysingleplay.com. Do you want me to just keep rambling?
Oh, yeah, go for it, man.
Okay,
go.
Cool. I can ramble for days.
For days?
Yeah, days.
48-hour podcast.
Well, has it been done before? You know, let's get in the world record book, Drew. Like, no, let's not do that, dear God. Like, oh my. So after onlysingleplay.com, I took a bit of more focus on my studies, and that was really good because my degree gave me like a lot of opportunities to work in different mediums, and at university as well. Like I was part of Student Magazine, so in print I was doing radio, so a lot of audio editing and stuff, which I really enjoyed. I even had my own radio show called Pixels Rising at a community radio station Adelaide that I did over a year with a couple of friends, Michelle, or Shell as she was known, and a couple other friends who were in for bits from time to time. Andrew Gurr, who was actually a friend I met through uni doing journalism. And we started chatting in the tutorial, and he was writing for like another video game news website, just volunteering, like the exact same thing I was doing. And so like he was involved, and there was Sam, or his nickname became Small Sexy, I think it was.
Small Sexy.
Because there was like another show before us, and the guy, I can't remember which way it was, whether it was Big Sexy, his name, or Small Sexy. And so like we didn't have a nickname for Sam for ages, and so we gave him just the alternative to what this guy was calling himself in the program before us, and then it stuck.
Did they like that on the were you like the higher ups at the station fine with that? Or they just had no idea?
No idea. Yeah.
Okay. That's all right.
We had a lot of fun, and that's the thing about community radio. Is another thing I'd say. Like, there's a lot of community radio stations around. Like, I don't know what it's like outside of Australia, but in Australia, like in Queensland, in Brisbane, there is a video game radio show there actually. And I know not only like is there a great team there, and I've got friends who have been involved, and Alana Pierce, who was at IGN, she was on it a lot back in the day as well. Like people, there's like some people who have been paid to do stuff there as well as volunteering. And there's one in Sydney too, and there's community. There's one in Melbourne too, actually. There's like video game radio shows, and there's other community shows and stuff, and like it's a lot of fun. It's like it's just. And it's also knowing once again what you're getting into. You're not going to go out there and just, make money or anything like that. It's like, it can be a stepping stone for experience like it has been for me. And it can just also be a lot of fun. And like, I had the opportunity where after like being involved in the station for a while, I was asked if I wanted to do my own video game show. And I was like, hell yeah. And then did not realize how much effort that took because it was 2 hours every week. Mm-hmm. And I'm the type of person where I'm very perfectionist in a lot of ways, and like I want to make content that's really worthwhile. I don't want to just like half-ass it. I want it to be something that's like worth someone really tuning in for. And so we were doing interviews with developers on a regular basis and other members of the video game industry in Australia. Some examples are Chris Johnson, who made Expand here in Adelaide. By the way, we're recording in Adelaide as well. Beautiful location change for the House of Mario.
Yeah, the House of Mario's in Adelaide this week. I've come up for a wedding this week, and that's also why Bryce isn't here.
Yeah.
People are just like, where the hell's Bryce? Is he sitting in the background? No.
Yeah, Bryce is he's just waiting to just jump in.
Unfortunately, he couldn't. We couldn't work out a time this week to record.
Yeah, and Drew had asked me previously in the past couple of weeks, like if I wanted to come on. I was like, yeah, and it just worked that Drew was up in LA, so. That's why Bryce isn't there. But yeah, to get back onto my ramblings, like some of examples, like if you're a big Australian gamer, I'm sure you've watched Good Game and interviewed Nick Boy and Janet Carr, the creator of the show, and they were a lot of fun. So we did a lot of interviews with people involved in the industry. We would feature different chiptune analysts every week. I became really involved in chiptune genre as well, which I'm really happy I did because there's so much great chiptune music. It's just incredible amounts. And we would do like so many different segments, some about local news stories, some international stuff. And then we also did like some odd sort of segments. I remember towards the end we were doing reviews of dating simulators, which is a lot of fun, or doing reviews of video game movies and just how trash a large majority, all of them. And so I spend a bit of time focusing on those aspects for me in university, and building up a lot of experience in a lot of different areas, and doing my own blog online as well. So still going experience writing online and blogging, which is really important as well, and building up sort of a skill set across a lot of mediums. And then after a while, I just, like I've said previously, I really like being involved in teams and working to build a bigger brand, because you can always do more with more people. You can do a podcast by yourself where it's like Like, and you can make probably a really good podcast, and like that's if you want to do that. But like having Drew and Bryce together, and having you guys having your relationship, like you can do so much more.
Yeah, bounce ideas off one another.
Exactly, and just do things that you would never think of by yourself. And that was the same thing with me wanting to be involved in video game news websites. But this time I wanted to be involved in an Australian one because only singleplayer.com, most of the guys were in America, and so trying to chat with them or do podcasts was like very early in the morning and very late at night, and communicating it was hard. And so this time I was like, I want to be with an Australian team so it's easier to communicate, and so I can actually meet them. But also because I was interested in covering the games industry through my work at uni, and then through Pixels Rising as well, covering it a lot. I wanted to cover games more and do that website where that was really relevant, and I stumbled across Press Start Australia, which was a personal project of Shannon Grixey, who's a wonderful guy, graphic designer and manager of Press Start, and he started just out as a blog with Australian focus on games, and which is something like there is Kotaku Australia, but they've got like a whole bunch of other things going on, and there's not many websites that really just cater to a Australian. Like there's a lot of smaller ones that cater to the Australian market, but Press Start's definitely now one of the biggest ones. Game Planet's another really
It's
good
grown
one
a lot
too.
over the last few years.
Yeah, well, for the first 3 years or so, it was very slow build up, as it is with anything, and building up a followership. But it was really what Shannon had created was really cool, and it was very consistent with social media, which I think, and is really important, and it's proved to be a big success for Shannon as well. And also coming from a graphic design point of view, Press Start just looked nicer than a lot of other websites. And
Yeah, for sure.
after about 3 years, Southern Cross Australia, the biggest radio network and one of the biggest TV networks in Australia, bought Press Start and employed Shannon full time. So it can happen, folks. Like it's like just it took years of work, but now Shannon is still employed full time as the manager and editor of Press Start, and that's what he does day to day. He covers news, but for the Australian market, and now it's like type of thing where it's getting hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views every month, like really core readership, really strong following on social media. And it was wonderful to be a part of it, to cover the games industry, indie developers particularly here, because after the collapse of the AAA studios here in Australia, it's now we're going through a period now, which is really cool, and I really appreciate, of smaller indie developers who have come away from those bigger studios that were here, like 2K and stuff like that, and now they've made their own little studios and making their own games, and covering that, and like the rise of indies here in Australia, and going to events and covering like Rooster Teeth Expo Sydney with teammates there, and PAX Australia as well, was a lot of fun, and I learned so much from that. I learned a lot from Shannon in regards to brand management, in regards to how to position articles as well, and so like lots and lots of stepping stones. Like, you know, it's not something that just happens. No, I didn't just like email an editor at IGN and they were just like, oh yeah, sick, like yeah, of course, like
chuck some words on our site, just
and
do
we'll
it.
just make it happen. No, it's like just years of study, of volunteering, of getting skill sets, and it's not just even skill sets or experience, just perspectives of working in different mediums and understanding how content is made in different ways, and how you can bring that to your personal medium or preference, and what the type of content you can do. And that's something I really think about a lot. Like, so often you see articles, particularly in the written space online, where it's very like, particularly if it's an interview, and it's just like question answer. It's just like, well, that's not very interesting. That's not something like, it's fine
unless you want like an answer.
Then that's okay.
But if you're just reading through, yeah, not so much.
Yeah. Like, and for some interviews that's better. But I like telling a story as much as possible with interviews and making it bigger part. Or like, for example, for Press Start last year, I interviewed Austin Wintry, well-renowned composer, one of the most well-known in the video game industry. He'd done Journey, Banner Saga, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, like a lot of pretty big games. And I interviewed him about a game he was working at the time for Devolver, Absolver, which is a really cool online fighting game. And I talked to him about that, but I also talked to him about him being involved in the Australian group Tripod, and like a show he has done with them for the last couple of years, and other things like, you know, what are his favorite video game composers and soundtracks. And so it was the type of thing where one of my articles was like, here they are, and then hey, here's actual like a link to the music, or it's a plugin so you can play it as you're listening to it. I like having content that's varied, where you can get different experiences, like you listening to music as you're reading about, and his preferences, and that cross sort of connection of content. I don't really know what to call it.
Well, especially if you're reading about music and you got no idea what it sounds like. It's meaningless.
Just having a SoundCloud player right there, so you can just play it and listen to it and be like, oh yeah, like I get, and like, you know, that's something I really want to do more in the future, and it's not something that's easy, but something I want to explore more, and if possible for bigger news websites. So yeah, but like I was saying, lots and lots of stepping stones to get to the point where last year I was still writing for Press Start, but I was at the point where I was like, up until that point, I hadn't been paid by anyone. I was getting to a point where I was like, I feel like my writing skills have gone to a point where I'm really happy with it, where I'm feeling more confident with myself. And I went through a really long stage of not being confident in myself. And that's something I talked about in my first article for IGN, actually. But I got to a point where I was more comfortable. I had a decent portfolio, and I knew people in the industry as well, particularly around Australia and New Zealand. And I was like, I want to start freelancing or trying to do it, because I had some friends who do it. I knew it was a thing that people did. It was possible. And starting to like understand what the roots were to doing that, and rather than just being this ambiguous fog of like, how the hell do you even begin to try and freelance for someone? And it's about building connections. It's like, not only is about building up your portfolio and your confidence in your writing and being just a good writer and having a knowledge that's worthwhile and for someone to freelance and contract you for, but it's going to events and meeting people and networking and getting to know the editors for their websites, because it's one thing to like just send an email to their email address or their freelance email address that a lot of websites do have, like Polygon does and Waypoint as well, and IGN to a lesser extent. But like actually knowing them and having a conversation, it's like there's so much more likely to read your email, to actually check out what you're pitching to them, and try and like be interested in you. Because you think of how many emails Waypoint's email for freelance will get on the regular basis, and Polygon, like, you'd just be...
Wouldn't like to be a job I'd like to have.
No, to look for it all. And someone like Austin Walker, who's the editor for Waypoint, he does actually look for them all. And like, that would be so time consuming for him. And it's like, if he sees a name he doesn't know, or if it's like something that he's not like 100% into, then it's like, it's unlikely that he's gonna dig that or try and get back to you about, because there's just so many other people, and there's already so many pools of established freelancers. Like, it's really hard. It's not an easy thing to do. And I got to a point last year where I wanted to start freelancing, and I did get paid for it as well. And so I started reaching out to a couple editors and starting conversations with people. And I started talking to Cam Shea, who's one of the content or writers or editors for IGN Australia. And they have an awesome team: Lucy O'Brien, Tristan, and Cam, like Luke Riley. Really, really good, solid team. They do awesome content. And I started talking to Cam and just being like, I met him from events, through work. Would you like me to go into my like public relations stuff as well, or
just keep going, dude?
Just keep going. So after I finished uni at the start of last year, I started doing contract work for Double Jump Communications. They're a video game and tech public relations agency based in Australia. I interned with them as part of my degree, and once I finished, I have the opportunity to do contract work for them in Sydney and Melbourne for about 6 or so months in total across 2017. And so I got to meet a lot of people in the industry, or more so better. And like, I remember I met Cam Shea years ago at PAX, the first PAX I went to, actually. And so I sort of, it's like you that's the thing, it's going to events and slowly building up relationships, because it's not just gonna happen immediately. Like, don't be that type of person that just walks out in this manner like, hey, like, I want to write for your website. So it's like, no, that's just gonna pull off someone like so hard.
Bring plenty of 50s to buy beers.
Yeah,
when you go out to the bar.
Yeah. It's a process, and it takes time. And so that was my first opportunity to really get to know a lot of people through working events, in particular meeting people at events where I was representing clients in Australia, such as Devolver Digital, Blizzard Entertainment, Cygames, which is a really big Japanese company, game developer, Razer, Plantronics, HyperX, like all international, but with like some pretty reasonable companies in the games sphere. I think so, at least. And so through those events, I started meeting people, and I started conversations just at that time, like, hey, like, I'm interested, like, is this a possibility? And slowly, and the thing is, with just IGN, it was a conversation that started from when I started that conversation, just asking if it was a possibility, to getting my first article published was like 6 to 7 months. Like, it was definitely a process of like starting that conversation and then sort of continuing it over a couple months, and then talking about more in person at events. and then actually doing pitches and having pitches accepted, and then the process itself going from having accepted and publishing is like sub-editing, coming up with headers and subtext and stuff, and then how does it fit into content strategy for someone like IGN who has a lot of Australian freelancers as well. And there's so many really, really good Australian freelancers doing content for IGN right now, and I've become to know a lot more of them in the last couple of months now that I've started writing for IGN and become more involved. And like, I can't think of all of them off the top of my head. Like Julian Rizzo Smith, really good friend of mine, who's in Sydney. He's done a couple articles for IGN, one about Cowboy Bebop and another about his mental affiliation with Ninja Fury's latest game, Hellblade. And there's lots of cool articles. Go to the IGN AU's Twitter, and like they're all listed there, so you can check it out really easily. And so it's like there's just so many things that go into a process like this, and then to actually get it published, which was just 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
So how do you feel having one of your most personal articles put on one of the biggest game sites in the world?
It's pretty fucking surreal.
Like it's not like you just wrote, Borderlands 3 is coming out today. Like you didn't just write something like that.
No. So to give a bit more context, with freelancers in Australia, and it's different for every company and for a website in different regions, but particularly in Australia, the freelancers that they get are for more opinion-based, long, in-depth pieces that are like thousands and thousands of words, like really in-depth. Because they're going to get people who can't do this content in-house themselves because they just don't have the time. They actually have a lot of freelance news writers in Australia and across the world as well. You'd be surprised how many new freelancers work for IGN, like just dozens and dozens of them, to like get as much content there is and fill in the gaps for news and all this type of stuff, because like a lot of what the content team in San Francisco and UK and Australia are doing are like kind of like the basic fundamentals of content, of like the dozens of podcasts they do and the video shows they do, and like just doing all those things themselves like takes so much time, and then the big event coverage as well. So like freelancers are really important to them to fill in those gaps, to help out with news. Like I saw during the Nintendo Direct, there was a couple news freelancers who were working alongside the more regular news writers at IGN, like Andrew Goldfarb and Marty Sleever and Jonathan Dornbush and stuff like that. So the freelancers are a really big part of not just IGN but a lot of websites. And when I pitched to Cam, I sent him a couple different pitches, and pitching is a new thing for me as well, honestly, because most of my experience writing for websites has been part of a team. So it's kind of like, here's our idea for like the person who's kind of the editor manager. And it's like, we kind of talk about, and most of the time it's more like kind of, the next 5 great Pokemon dolls are coming out. like it's just more listicles or news and not real big opinion pieces. And so pitching for me is a new thing for me in a lot of ways, and it's something I'm going through in my first couple of pitches now, which I sent to Cam like just a month and a half ago. I look back at it now, I'm like, wow, they were bad. And like, so now when I've done my next sets of pitches, they're so much better, so much concise and to the point, and describing exactly what I want to write about. And so the first time I sent pitches, there was a couple of them, and my first one was about on Life is Strange. And Life is Strange is a very story, narrative-driven game, very similar to the Telltale games if you haven't played it, but very much its own twist on the Telltale format, and I feel like it did it a lot better than a lot of Telltale games as well. And it connected with me for a lot of reasons. I won't go into too much itself. You can go read the article on IGN.friggin.com, like, and if you want to get the full thing. But it was very much, I had a really strong connection with Life is Strange and the main character Max Clawfield, because at the time when I played it back in 2015, I was just in a very similar space to her, trying to figure out what I was doing with my life, gain confidence in my own skill set, which was writing and pushing through, because it's the thing any creative person has, where it's like, I was talking to a friend, graphic designer last night, a friend of ours, Joel Rennie, who's a big Nintendo fan, and him talking about the same thing, like, you know, just making content because you're just afraid of it not being good enough, and it's like you just gotta push through and do it. And so I connected with Max in a lot of ways, and I enjoyed the game a lot. It's probably one of the games I've cried the most in as well, like just a ridiculous amount, and like there's some really moving parts. And so it's an idea I've had in my head for a couple years now, where I wanted to talk about my connection with Life is Strange, and particularly why I found Max, the protagonist, such a relatable character. And that was like my first kind of one of my pitches for Cam, and he was just like, yeah, that sounds good.
Oh, sweet.
and so over a month, I actually wrote it, and we sent it back between each other, and just doing edits and stuff. And it's a really fun process. And Cam's an awesome editor, like really, really talented, and like just leveled up the piece, as it were, in lame game terms. Yeah.
Was there much of that? Was there much of like, move this sentence here, do this paragraph?
It depends on the editor, obviously, but in a situation like Cam, it's like he's such a great editor where it's very much, suggestions and just making it flow better. But most importantly, and this is like the most important thing about being an editor, is making the writer's message more concise and making it come across the best that it can. Because some editors are very much like, they'll just change stuff to fit what they think it should be. But the great editors like Cam, they won't just come in and be like, obviously if there were issues with content, they would say it. But in this situation, the content was fine. It's just about delivering the message even better, making it more concise, making it easier to read. And there's things like you always miss. The day it got published, Cam sent it to me via email. It's like, hey, if you see any issues with it, like, tell me. It's like, I read through it. Yeah, there's actually a couple grammar things. And like, we've looked at it both like half a dozen times each and edited it multiple times. And there's still things at the end when it's been published after all that, like changes to be made and updates to be made even after it's been published. So it's quite a process and collaborative process, but it was really good. Cam's like I've said, he's a really great editor, and there's a lot of really good editors in GameSphere, but it's not easy to find them all the time,
because it is important to keep it as your article, not just like completely change the wording and how it's structured. Because that was my first concern when you said, they go through it and change things. I was like, oh.
Yeah, people have a lot of qualms and questions about that, and like justly, because like you just like every editor is different, you just don't know what they're going to do. But yeah, Cam's very good at just keeping that message and just conveying it as best as possible. Yeah. So, and like Cam told me the week before when it was being published on the Monday, and like honestly that day I was on IGN just like refreshing like every couple minutes, and
I bet you were.
And I eventually because that's the thing, like we said earlier, like Beyond was a really big part of our lives back in high school, and it was for years after as well, and even into Kind of Funny now too. And it was such a big part of me growing my interests, and IGN as a whole as well. All their content there and great writers over the years of my interest in games. And so, and it's like pretty much the biggest games website in the world.
It is.
It is, yeah. And so, like, I was pretty nervous as well. I was getting excited leading up to it, and then I was like, the day before, I just had this moment where I was like, oh shit, like, are people gonna like it? Like, are people gonna hate it or not? Because it was a very personal piece, and like, and so
some loved it, some didn't.
Yeah, and that's how it is. And there's always the silent majority, like 90% people who are 95% people who are gonna come and read it and be like, oh, I didn't like it or did like it, and they'll be off.
Yeah,
won't leave a comment, won't share it. They'll just read it and be, and that's just how it is. And so that day I'm like refreshing it, and after a while I'm just like, nah, I can't do this. I'll go play a game, and I started playing a game for like 5 minutes, and then I got an email from Cam. It's like, I was like, oh fuck. And the response was awesome. Like there was heaps of comments, like more comments on that one article than I've ever had on all my other articles before, because it's IGN, and a lot of people connected with it, good and bad. And the thing is though, like there's a lot of people who make snarky comments and be like, oh, Life is Strange as shit, and it's like, for you to say that, obviously, like the game must have a great enough influence for you to have to say something. And I think that says something good about Life is Strange, because most things people just move on from. So it's like, even if you're hating on it, it's like, thanks for reading and thanks for coming. But for the most part, the response, it was just great to have people to talk with about. People read it, and like, even if they're saying shit, I can just have people to talk to about and discuss it more. And on social media, it blew up a lot as well. Just posting on my own Twitter, and I tagged Greg Miller and Colin Moriarty. I was just like, oh, hey, like, you guys were a big influence. Like, I published it, my first article for IGN after like 5 years since I started listening to it. And they both replied and was like, oh, sick, that's awesome. I was like, whew, like, I couldn't ask for much more. And then like a lot of people were retweeting, like Greg retweeted it as well. I was just like, man, you didn't have to do that, but like, that's just so nice. And just, yeah, and like even in the Kind of Funny communities as well online, and just like Life is Strange community, like there was a Life is Strange fan site that shared that,
yeah.
and it got like over 1,000 likes and like just hundreds of retweets. And I was like, what the hell? Like, holy crap! I wasn't expecting it. And I actually shared the article with the developers themselves because after years of like working for smaller sites and learning to self-promote your work as much as possible, like whenever I publish an article, I always tag the developers. And I didn't have that necessary in this case where like when it was published on Twitter and stuff through IGN. So it's like, I just sent messages to Don't Nod Entertainment, the French developers who made Life is Strange. It's like, hey, here's an article I wrote about Life is Strange. And then they shared it on their social media as well, which was really special.
Yeah, Mr. IGN, small websites contacting the developers.
It's like, that's the thing. It's somewhat of a big leap, really. And this was my first paid piece as well, which is something really special in itself. Which is it's just it's nice to be paid after all these years and having a degree in media and journalism as well, and actually get paid by the biggest video game news website in the world. Like it's surreal. I can't believe it, and I can't wait. Like honestly though, the day after I was just like, what's my next thing? I was thinking about what is the next thing I want to do, and I've already got ideas, and I've already like pitching now and to Cam and to other editors, other websites, because there's so many great games I want to talk about and I have close experiences with, and I want to share and discuss more within the gaming community as well. And I've recently been published on a couple other websites just through a volunteer basis as well. Geek Bomb, which is a geek culture website, but they're sort of making a big transition to video. But I was happy to be involved and just have an article published on there recently. But more so, OK Beast, a really, really cool website. Have you checked out OK
absolutely.
Beast?
Yeah, of course I have.
Yeah, they're awesome. Like, I love that there's been lots of websites or groups of people from like the Kinda Funny Beyond community who are like now making their own content, like Irrational Passions and OK Beast. And OK Beast, I've been a fan of them for a really long time. Like, not only is like their website just looks awesome, like the visual and graphic design is just like really, really nice, really crisp, and really inviting and beautiful for your eyes to digest. And the written content's great, but they do great video essays too. And so I just started following and commenting and being involved in the community more with them, and be like, Alex, who's one of the main guys, like he started following me at one point or something. I can't remember. By message, I was like, hey, like, can I write for you guys? And he was like, yeah, because he'd seen a lot of my work from Press Start and stuff over the time, sharing it and stuff. And it's really important to share your stuff. It's really important. Every time you do an article, even if it's on your blog, like I did a little really nice piece with my girlfriend, review of Florence, the mobile game from Mountains, Melbourne studio. And I just do it on my blog, and still share it everywhere. Still share on your Twitter, still share on your Facebook. Like, show people that you are doing stuff consistently, and they'll remember that, and they'll see it, and they'll recognize your quality.
Like, even if they don't go to read it, they see you're at least posting it, and you've got stuff going out there.
Exactly, you're doing stuff. You're proactive, and you know, that's more than what a lot of people ever do. And it was in this situation where Alex was like, "Yeah, I've seen your stuff. Like, I really like it." Like, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And honestly, that was like very special in itself, and being involved in OK Beast and writing articles for them. Yeah, it's like they're awesome guys. There's so many smaller websites like OK Beast that, you know, get crowded out by IGN and GameSpot and Polygon and Eurogamer and Waypoint. Like, there's so many big ones. It's like, why won't you go to them? But there are these smaller niche websites like OKBeast that are doing just awesome content, and it's really worth like going and checking them out. And you might see an essay on a game that you won't see anywhere else, just because the writers there connected with it more than anyone else. Like, yeah. So
especially with OK Beast, like their opinion pieces, they like really make you think about the games as well. Yeah, and it's not necessarily the like brand new games, but it might be a game 2 years ago or 30 years ago.
Moises, one of the main writers, he does a weekly column where he's looking back at old games from like a year ago, a month ago, years ago, and just talking about and really going into the themes and how he feels about it now, and looking, because I think that's something that games industry really lacks is articles looking back on games and perspectives, and like down the line, whether it's a month later, 6 months later. It's so much about the current news cycle, and that's just how it is in entertainment in a lot of the ways, because there's just so much happening. That's where the clicks are. But OK Beast and other websites are doing that type of content where it's looking back and really delving into them in a new way, and having time to really digest and think about. Well, if you're doing a review, it's like you're just doing it. You're doing it again as quickly as possible. And it's like, there's times where I've done reviews in a couple days or before the release, and then like a couple months later, I look at it, I was like, I wouldn't have given it that score now that I've had time to think about and digest it.
Yeah.
And I would say this differently. I'll focus on this differently, having, that time.
It can
to
sort
sit
of
on
it can take a year to like cement those feelings.
It can. And so that's one of the things I love OK Beast about as well. Like a lot of the video essays are often quite time relevant, but a lot of them aren't as well. Some of them's talking about emotional connections and helping with mental illness in regards to Stardew Valley, or talking, lots of great content.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm just sort of starting to really get into like playing the retro games I missed. So like this year there hasn't been that much I'm that interested in.
Oh, there's so many games through that. I'm so far behind already.
Yeah, I'm a bit that way too. But like, for example, I really want to get into Monster Hunter.
Oh, that looks so good. How good does Monster Hunter World look?
It looks awesome.
It looks awesome.
But like, sort of, when I went to get it, it wasn't there. It wasn't in stock down Mount Gambier.
Ah, well, that's just annoying.
So I didn't get it. Now I'm sort of like, all right, I'll use this time my free time to catch up on a few Nintendo 64 games, GameCube games, Wii games, sort of. But yeah, let's see if that happens.
That's the thing about games. It's like it's it was like to this point years ago, but I think I'm only starting to come to the point where I'm expecting it. Probably not where it's like I can't play everything.
Definitely not.
Because you
No
can't.
way.
Like you look at Steam, like how many games are releasing on Steam every day, every week, like just thousands in a year now.
You have to play all the Steam games. I'm sure they're just quality.
Well, even just like I've really put on onus this year on keeping track of the games I play and games that I really want to play, and so I've got like my own personal video game release schedule of games that I'm really interested in. It's like, a game just like, it's okay if I mention a PlayStation game on a Nintendo.
Oh my god,
podcast.
Seamus, if you have to,
you
have to.
Days Gone has been delayed until 2019, which I'm really sad about because I'm really excited for it. And so it's like now that's something I changed myself, and it's like I've got like just this big document of articles I write and games I want to play, and it's like there's just so many, even just of like the bigger indie games, because I'm a very indie game person. I love what indie developers can do because they're independent and try and tell different stories, unique stories, and different game mechanics. And like Red Strings Club or Celeste this year, two of my favorite games already, and probably will be for this year. And very small teams, and just keeping up with them, let alone with AAA, it's impossible now because it's such a huge industry, and it's great, and that's why we need more people covering games, because there's not enough people, there's not enough voices, and a lot of the people are just covering the same thing, the general news cycle. But there's so many special indie games that deserve coverage, deserve to be talked about, and deserve to be shared, and that's the best way that they'll get noticed by people just talking about, writing articles. So yeah, there's room for growth in the media games industry, despite what people would say, I think.
Yeah, because most people just say it's packed, it's very competitive.
And it is.
It is definitely very competitive. I'm not saying that it's not. But, yeah. Yeah, so that's my life. I tell you what, like, at the moment, I'm sitting here wearing a Put In Work shirt.
Yeah, which is very nice. I like it a lot.
I feel like I'm doing a Put In Work podcast.
Yeah, it is, in a way. Yeah. I'm sorry that it's not, like, super Nintendo focused, and we'll get to that in regards to the Direct, because there's a lot to talk about. But yeah,
I think we might actually leave that out today.
Oh, leave that out today?
We're approaching 50 minutes.
Oh, wow. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Because Drew, you were just like, oh, yeah, we'll just talk about it. And it's just like, and I kept asking you, like, you want me to keep going? It's like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
No, it's been good.
Do you want to just like put this as putting in work and just send it to Jono? Like,
oh, may as well.
Yeah.
Jono can just like, what do you have to do? You have to make the voice a bit deeper. Is Jono's voice a bit deeper?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll... Has this been put in work? I don't know.
Which is on the same network that the House of Mario is on, 8-Bit Network, of course, which you've joined recently. And I want to ask you about that. Like, how did that come about?
I'll be honest, we asked them and they said yes.
It was as simple as that. But like, how did you, like, I've seen them grow over the last year or so that they've been doing their stuff and like expanding and just doing that for a very long time. It was very much their own podcast and stuff, but recently they've really expanded and bringing up a lot of other podcasts and shows in, like Putting In Work and like your own. And what was it about them that you want to be part of it?
Well, I really liked what 8-Bit done event, like to start off with Brendan and the Hungry Gamers podcast, and love what they did. Then I saw they put out a tweet saying we're looking for other people to join our family. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. That sounds like a really cool idea. I saw then they announced Buddy and Dash's podcast were joining.
He's an awesome guy, really lovely guy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they both are. They're so cool. And then Jono, his show Put the Work got announced that it was a part of the network. Also, like a lot of the people I was friends with anyway, like Bryce and I were friends with anyway, they were joining. So it'd be great to be a part of, what our friends are doing.
Yeah.
So we can bounce ideas off one another
and grow together, yeah, and part of like an Australian network of podcasts, which is really cool. Like it's a couple of years ago that's just wouldn't be a thing because like none of you guys were doing these podcasts. But now that you've just brought them up yourselves, you just started them yourselves, and it's grown and developed, and yeah, it's really cool, like a real family friend collaboration.
Like it all started when we went to RTX and we all met each other and. The Explosion Network guys, seven of those guys got together and started their stuff, and we started up in May. Our first episode went out because Bryce and I we were originally going to do just Let's Plays videos stuff on YouTube, and that didn't work out just because the internet was that slow. We could not upload anything, and when we did, you couldn't see our faces. It was that blurry.
God.
We had to upload it at 480p, so that didn't work. And so we just went, well. Like, I love podcasts. Like we said, I've been listening to Beyond, IGN, Kind of Funny, other podcasts I listen to for years and years and years. And it's probably one of my favourite mediums, podcasts. So having that smaller file to upload to the internet and also probably my preferred media over YouTube videos anyway.
Because it just takes so much longer as well. YouTube content takes so much time and effort and like, my God. And like, not to say podcasts don't. Podcasts, if you want to make a good podcast, like it takes a lot of time and effort too. Like, holy crap. But it is easier. Like, yeah. It's
only the audio you got to worry about. You don't have to worry about the video.
Video, yeah. Like,
so if something will look funny visually but sounds fine, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really cool. And it's like, it's been awesome to become friends with everyone who's doing these shows over the past year or so, and meeting a lot of them at RTX and Sydney. And I remember when I interviewed Greg Miller and Tim Geddes, because they were down last RTX for Press Start with good friend Ewan, who still is involved with Press Start. And one of the things like Tim said at the time was like, I love this. I love guys like you who have been inspired by us to do your own thing and to just make it happen and like come to conventions and meet up. And a lot of situations like in this, like with the Explosion Work guys, it's like they were just all fans of Kind of Funny and they just met online together through the communities, and then they met in person and they actually wanted to make content together.
Well, they met there first in person, I think.
Yeah, well, I think they like talked online and see each other in the groups and stuff and Kind of Funny in that space. But yeah, to actually meet for the first time properly, was...
Well, Explosion Network guys, make a documentary or something. So
it would be really interesting.
I really want them to like hire actors. No, it's been awesome.
Yeah, so what's the future hold for House of Mario now for you, Drew? Now that we're 1 year into the Switch and you and Bryce are part of the 8-Bit network, like, do you have any big goals, or you're just enjoying where House of Mario's at?
We're enjoying just talking into the microphones and get a bit more confident and more ideas. We just started doing the dumb little skits.
Yeah, which are great. Yeah,
I quite enjoy those.
Inspired a bit by IGN podcast.
100%.
Yeah,
IGN AU. Cam Shea, he still does.
Do these skits at the start of every IGN AU pubcast, as they call it, and they're like quite long and in depth. Some of them, they've really grown over the years, and they've been a favorite of ours for several years now as well, along with Beyond. Yeah,
he's got the same sense of humor as me too. He's always talking about dolphins.
And you got to meet Cam last year at PAX as well. Yeah,
that's cool. Oh god, it's getting hot in this room, Seamus. I'll be honest.
It is a bit warm, Drew. Yes.
Why is it so hot in Adelaide? Is it closer to the sun up here or what?
That's how it works, right? Yeah.
4 hours away, just like 4 hours close to the sun. Because like you're going north.
Yeah, we're pretty. Yeah, that's like up into space. Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, we're right next to Alice Springs. Like. So let's stop embarrassing ourselves. Yeah.
Right, we're in the episode. Thanks for listening, guys. This was an episode a bit different to usual. Not much Nintendo chatter, and you're probably thinking like, "Oh, it's a Nintendo podcast." And there was a big direct what happened the other day, but you didn't talk anything about the direct.
What the fuck?
Jesus. But I reckon we'll talk a bit more about that when I'm back with Bryce. I'm sure he has some conversations he wants to.
I'm sure. True.
Yes,
it was a big direct. Like, can I just say Mario Tennis Aces? It looks crisp. I'm very
all right. So
excited.
Elaborate more on that, and I'll go one of my points.
Okay. Well, like it'd already been announced previously, but this was like a really more in-depth showing of the gameplay and how it's going to play and like the different features and stuff and release day as well. And it's not that far away, just a couple months. But when I first saw the release date, or saw the initial release and just gameplay, I was like, "Man, this looks really cool." It's like I've never played any of them before. It looks like a lot of fun, like the Mario Soccer of old, like just a lot of fun and silly and quirky. And I never played them, so I was excited, and it looks really crisp. Like it just looks really
great, yeah.
nice, and like it adds to the Switch ecosystem of playing with friends and wherever you are, and very co-op party type of game. And then the actual gameplay, 5-6 minutes they had, really went into like the mechanics. And at first it's like, oh, we have these power moves where you can just like win a serve, and I was like, whoa, that seems super broken. And then they're just like, no way, this isn't broken. Like we have like all these counters, and it's like really in depth mechanically. Like
when they were going into the like different mechanics and moves you can pull
and
off, I was like, holy shit!
Like the slow mode, the power, the energy meter, and how it all works together. And they explained it really well and showed it off really well. Like I was like, man, this I'm even more excited. Mechanically, it looks awesome. And then it's like they show off some of the other features, and they were like, oh, so also if you just want to play this like normal, you can just take off all the power moves and just play it standard, like you would sort of Wii Sports tennis mode, or the Mario tennises of the old. So like you can play old fashioned if you want, but like if you want to play with all these cool in depth power mechanics and moves and stuff like that, like it's there. And there's a story mode as well that I'll probably play through. Like
I feel like they had to do all this because the last Mario Tennis was so bare bones, it's disgusting. So I think this one they had to sort of really impress people with a story mode and mechanics and characters. Like Chain Chomp just holding the tennis racket in his mouth. That's awesome.
When I first saw it, I was like, that's an odd choice. And then I kept seeing it more. I was like, I actually really like this design.
It's awesome.
Choice.
Yeah.
And I feel like, not to get into it too much, but I feel like Nintendo's at that point with a lot of franchises, with Mario Party, with Mario Tennis, where it's like the last ones on Wii U in particular were kind of like, really average.
Like 2016 for the Wii U, they just like push these games out. So Mario Tennis, they just push it out. Like all it was is a bit of tennis with the Mega Mushroom, so you get bigger. That's all it was. Like there's nothing to it.
That's it. And then like the Mario Party, it was like the first one I played on Wii U, and I was like, this is pretty trash. Like this is not that
I didn't
great.
even play it.
Yeah, and so like Nintendo was just in such a great stride. And listening to your last week's podcast of House of Mario, like you and Bryce were saying, I don't know if they can match last year, and I don't think they can in the way that they did last year, because last year was a lot of new games, but this year is like there is new games like Mario Tennis Aces happening, and some other titles like that, but a lot of it is ports from the Wii U, like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze or Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker. And do you know what? I am so pumped for those, because I didn't have a Wii U, I didn't want to get a Wii U, and now I actually get to play it. And for like a lot of people, it will be almost like a new game.
And even if you play the shit out of those games, you can put it in your pocket and take it with you.
And it's a new experience because of how the Switch is, because of the ecosystem that is there. And so I honestly think this year is gonna be almost as it won't be quite the same, but I feel like they're gonna. Like they've already had Bayonetta come out, and I feel like they're already doing a good job of padding out year 2 of the Switch.
There's definitely stuff there. Just my issue was when they did the mini direct at the start of the year, they said, all right, this is from now to June, and that was Bayonetta 1, 2, Donkey Kong, Hyrule Warriors, and I was like, I've played those, and I don't want them again, so there's nothing for me.
Yeah,
and so apart from it
was a bit lackluster until this direct that we've just had, and it's been filled a lot by like indie games in particular, games like Celeste, which are awesome, and there's a lot of third-party support as well. A lot of announcements come out of the direct that I'm sure you and Bryce will talk about. I feel
like, and also, really, you did not finish all the games from last year either.
No,
like if you finish Xenoblade 2 and Zelda
and Mario and Splatoon, got a lot of Mario Kart done. Like
I know Bryce did.
But not everyone is that devoted. Yeah,
not everyone's Bryce. Because I got Xenoblade and I barely touched it.
Yeah, I was interested in it, but I was like, I don't have the time for that. No, So what's your one game that you want to talk about just for this show before next week, Drew?
Well, I'm really excited about a new WarioWare game on 3DS.
I am too, but why isn't it on Switch, Drew? Why?
I don't know, but at least it's something.
It's something.
So it's just basically an amalgamation of a heap of mini games from past games, and they've got a few new ones in there. That's what I can get from it. But really, WarioWare on 3DS should have happened a long time ago.
Has it not actually happened?
No.
What?
The last one was Wii.
Are you kidding me?
No. And
how long has the 3DS been a thing? Like 2011?
10?
10?
I think.
It's getting towards a decade.
Might be 11, I don't know.
But it's been several years. I just would have assumed that there was. And it's like the biggest WarioWare there ever be. Like over 300 freaking mini games. Like probably further of them will be like 5 seconds and kind of shitty.
Oh, they are. They're micro games.
Yeah. But like WarioWare is awesome. But do you think they'll bring it to Switch?
Oh, eventually.
Yeah.
It'll be phenomenal on Switch.
It just makes so much sense.
My favourite one's the Wii one, just because of how crazy you can get with the controller. Like, there's one where you put it on your head, there's put it on your nose, like you're waving it, like they use it in really wacky ways.
It's just ridiculous, yeah.
And just having it with the touchscreen, having it with the 2 Joy-Cons.
And the Joy-Cons are so good, like the functionality of them, like there's so much you can do, and it's like hopefully they'll be able to do it with a lot of the mini games that go into the 3DS version. Maybe there'll be a lot of exclusive levels that just work better with the Switch when it hopefully does eventually come. Like surely, like
I want it really bad.
Yeah.
Another game I was really excited about was just a HD port of Okami HD.
Yeah,
I'm like, thank God support. Yep, because I've bought Okami on Wii, PS3, PS4 just a couple of months ago, and now it's on Switch. I'm like, oh well, I want to play it there. So, okay.
Well, and like I read the press release from Capcom of it, and it's just like the touchscreen mechanics of the painting and stuff like that within the game. It's just like that's really cool, and that works really well. And you can take it on the go because it's Switch, and it'll look really nice on the screen. And like I love my PlayStation 4 and my Xbox One, and those ecosystems are there, Drew. But Nintendo Switch is the best console that's ever been made. Like,
really?
Well,
actually, this is what I want to. This podcast is going to go a bit longer than 6 more minutes, but this is a point. Like you've been a PlayStation, like back when we
back in the day,
you were a hardcore PlayStation fan.
I fanboy, Drew. I was a full PlayStation fanboy
to the point when you got your Xbox 360, 2013.
Yeah, when I was at college.
When you were at college, all of us went, "What the fuck? You bought an Xbox? This is not the Seamus Mullins we know."
Yeah, because I had PlayStation 3. Like growing up, I played a lot of different consoles. Had the original Xbox, and had some Nintendo consoles. But like the 3DS and DS to a lesser extent were the only, and 64 to an even lesser extent than that. Like I love Pokemon Stadium. Were the main consoles on Nintendo hardware that I had. Otherwise, it was PlayStation. And in more recent years, I've not realized that being a fanboy is stupid and dumb, and it's all games are great, and it's just nice owning everything. But I didn't get a Wii U because I had a PlayStation 3 and then an Xbox One, and then I got a PlayStation 4. I was like, Wii U, just like there's so many great games there, but the hardware really just wasn't what I wanted.
Not very inspired.
Not very inspired. No, not at all. And the Switch is like my first Nintendo console I've bought myself. First one I had since the 64. And beforehand I was like, it's a cool idea, but I just don't think it's going to click. I just don't think it's going to do well. I think it's going to replicate how the Wii U did. And then I wasn't going to get it at launch. And then the hype got me, and I got one at launch.
Yeah, I saw you post on Twitter or Facebook, you had a picture of your Switch. I'm like, he bought a Switch. Like, I was surprised. I was like, sweet.
I traded in my 3DS so I could.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If WarioWare is only in 3DS, I'm probably going to buy a third 3DS so I can play it. Yeah. I was skeptical. I thought it was a cool idea, but I was skeptical of its popularity. But it's been awesome sales wise. It's been so popular, and it's just such an awesome console. It's not as powerful, sure, as a PlayStation 4 is Pro or Xbox One X or building your own PC. So it's you're not going to play Witcher on that. But the types of games I play so much more are short indie games, very narrative driven as well in particular. And that works so well on the Switch, and being able to, everyone's always asking for more co-op games. The entire time I've been covering the industry and really been involved, people are always we need more co-op games. The Switch is just a co-op console that you can put in your friggin' pocket.
Absolutely.
That's what everyone's been asking for. And there's so many great first party games. There's so much indie stuff now, and there's so much third party support. Like it's an awesome console. I wish the battery was a little bit like more like a couple hours longer, but it's fine. Like the battery for the most part. Nintendo's still like the online is still pretty trash in a lot of ways, and there's issues. Don't get me wrong, but like, yeah, I think it's the best console ever made. Honestly,
Holy shit!
yeah,
Wow, wasn't expecting that coming out of your mouth.
bloody hell.
No, like I absolutely love the flexibility of the thing. Like back to the Vita PS3 day, a lot of the times if it wasn't cross-buy, you'd be like, all right, should I get it on Vita because I can put it in my pocket, I can grind, like especially RPGs, I can grind, I can make progress that way, or do I want it on my TV because this game looks stunning.
Exactly, and I love the cross-buy feature, and they still do it now for like a lot of games, like Iconoclast, an indie game that I haven't had the good chance to get to.
A lot don't know, unfortunately. Like,
yeah, a lot don't. Yeah, but
the one
it
I
was
was
a really
thinking,
cool feature.
The one I was thinking of was like a Digimon RPG, and like it looks awesome on PS4, but it looks it works a lot better on Vita.
Yeah,
so
it's just not quite. It wasn't quite there. It was really close, and it was more going for that like console experience, getting Killzone on it, and a lot of other games, and like the 3DS as well. Awesome handheld consoles, like awesome. But just the Switch is just the bringing it all together, and like a lot of the ways I see the Wii U is just like what the Switch was meant to be, and they just needed couple more years to figure it out.
Yeah, get it to work. Like back in 2012. I don't think you would have been able to make the Switch either, just with the technology around.
Yeah, I don't know enough on the technical side of like.
No, I don't either.
But. Yeah, but like probably, and you know, it just wasn't in their mindset, or it's like they just like things take time. Like
I think it was. It's just they didn't have that mobile chip really ready to go back then. Like Nvidia was already sort of experimenting with their shields and
like
that sort of back
even
then.
the Wii U was like a big jump for them, where obviously they were like, oh, like. We have our home consoles and we have our handhelds and we want to like get something in between, but it just took couple more years of innovation and working it out, and like now they've just hit the ground running. Like what it was for PlayStation with PlayStation 3. Like the launch, it was an absolute mess, and they just really didn't know what they were trying to do, what ecosystem they wanted to build. In PlayStation 4, they just hit the ground running and just really like, you know, they're winning the console wars, if you want to put it that way. Yeah, they probably sold twice as many Xbox Ones. Microsoft is still being very profitable in their own way. Like the Xbox One's still
they
very
got plenty
successful.
of XLs to sell.
Yeah, they've done like Microsoft has been very successful and a very good, strong competitor. You're only as good as your competitor, and Microsoft has been very, very good. And Sony learned from their lessons and created a really awesome ecosystem that has been lagging a little bit. I feel like there's been a couple years here where it's been a bit lacking, but now there's a lot of first-party titles and that's coming out, and they're really hitting their stride again. And I feel like that's what Nintendo did with the Switch. Like they needed to fail to succeed as well as they have with the Switch.
Yeah, because they came out of the Wii just so. I guess they didn't not cocky like PlayStation was necessarily.
I think they were though to a degree. I feel like they came out as like, "Hey, here's the Wii U. Like you're just gonna buy it because you love the Wii," and people were like. So is that like an extension?
They didn't say get a
Wii?
second job though.
No. To be fair, but I feel like there was a level of cockiness there
absolutely.
of just presuming success, and a lot of harsh lessons that came from that.
Which I have no idea why, because they just came like from GameCube to Wii. It wasn't that long ago to forget that. I don't know why.
But like, I feel like Xbox did it a bit as well. Like original Xbox was like very preliminary start for them, very much just testing the waters, and then Xbox 360, massive success. And then they were like, yeah, we're just big shots now. Xbox One will just kill it. And there was just so many issues about their strategy, about their messaging, and so it meant that PlayStation has and Sony has the upper hand. And so yeah, people were quick to forget. Yeah,
it seems like it. Hopefully, because I can see PS4 now, they're starting to be like, yeah, we forgot the PS3 days. We've been on top forever.
Yeah,
PS2 was yesterday, wasn't it, guys? Like, I hope Nintendo doesn't go that way. Like, don't forget the dark days, guys.
No, and I feel
I sure haven't.
It's only been a year that the Switch has been out. Like, yeah, I know. I think with the Direct that you guys will go more into next week, I think it shows that they're padding it out and like bringing across a lot of great games that they had on the Wii U, and now in the background, I'm sure they're working on a lot of cool games to set themselves up for the future. And the third party is great. Like, it's better than it's ever been. There's more indies. It's a great ecosystem for indie developers right now, and I think it will continue to be as more people buy Switch and there'll be a market
Absolutely.
there for people like me who want experiences. Like, even though I've played Night in the Woods last year when it came out, because I just wanted to play it that badly. Like, if I hadn't, now I would have played it on Switch. Oxenfree, I would have played it on Switch. Celeste, I played it on Switch. Like, just because it's my preferred platform, because I can take it with me, because it is my preferred overall console.
Yeah, because I've always leaned towards handhelds, and now just having this is just a dream.
It's
to be
perfect.
honest.
Yeah, and like I still play on my PlayStation 4. Like, I play FIFA 18 on my PlayStation 4 because that's where the best experience of that is.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just where I tend to play it most on the go. But like, I'm over at my girlfriend's place and I can take it with me and we can play together. Or if I'm going on holidays, like last year, I was traveling around Australia, like heaps to Sydney, going back and forth between Adelaide to Melbourne, going back home town to visit family, and just traveling for events. It's like having the Switch was just perfect. It was perfect. Yeah.
God, I love the Switch. It's good thing. Good thing. That's what I've got to talk about this, Seamus.
Yeah.
Fucking Super Smash Brothers.
I thought you would have to hold this back until next week, Drew, but yeah, fucking Smash Bros. Fucking Smash Bros, Drew.
I don't know if I said this, but I was watching the Direct in the car. I think I did say that. I was watching it in the car, and when the Splatoon come back on it, it was basically reenacting the first trailer when Splatoon got announced.
And I loved it. It was such a good way to do it.
Like, immediately I'm like, this is gonna be Smash. This is gonna be Smash. And then like it's doing the squid jumps out the paint and it does like that slow mo pass. I'm like, this is edited like a Smash trailer.
And then it started to like slow down and go dark. And
Yeah.
then the Splatoon character just like turns around and like it's in its eye, and it's like, oh, it gives me shivers. Like thinking about
I'm like, this
now.
is Smash, and it's there. It's like Smash.
And then it's just like Mario and Link just like, what's going on, bitch? Like, you ready to bro?
And there's a funny tweet like saying like, I'm like, it's a bit dark, but like the Squid Kids, they're just
having a bit of fun. And then Mario's just like,
every Nintendo franchise has come just to beat the shit out of them.
and like and it looks like in the back it's like one of the ARMS characters is like already there. It's just like, we're ready to go already, guys. Like, come on. Like, yeah, it's yeah. I think like when it came out on Wii U, not a lot of people I knew had it, and so I didn't play that much. And we played a lot of the Wii version. Like, we played a lot back in the day, and so I think I got a bit burnt out on it. And I've said this to you before, but I feel like I've had enough time to sort of to sit on it, and now it's like I feel ready for a new Smash, and it's having it on the Switch as well. It's like, yeah, that'll just be so much more perfect. It'll just be even better. And I was talking to some friends about this last night, some big old Nintendo fanboys like Joel and, like Joel and Riley, and we were talking about, it's like, surely it's a port, surely, like, and from my perspective, like, what can they improve on Smash? What can they add besides new stages and new characters to make this game better? I
was thinking it's going to be like, there's been lots of talk whether it's port or a sequel, and I think it would be like a new Smash Bros, but I don't think it would be the difference between Brawl and Smash 4.
No.
Where, like,
no.
From Brawl to Smash 4, they completely redone the art style. So, like, they made it look from gritty to just Nintendo, pretty much, from Brawl to Smash 4. But I think they might be along the lines of more Splatoon 2, how it's just like, it's bigger, better, a bit better graphics, more modes, a few more characters. Like, just stuff like that.
There'll be Splatoon characters, there'll be ARMS characters, hopefully Snake will be back, Drew. Snake.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Everyone's hoping for Crash Bandicoot because of the Insane Trilogy coming.
Like, Activision does like money, and like Nintendo would have to pay a lot, so like maybe, wouldn't that be so shitty if like Crash was in Smash Bros but wasn't in PlayStation Battle Royale All Star?
It'd be interesting because it's kind of like, well, his games are on the Switch
now, coming as
it is relevant. It will be relevant.
It will be relevant. Yeah. I think the way it's going to work, though, it will be a sequel. And IGN, the new editor for IGN, has a really good article talking about that. It's actually being made by HAL Laboratories, so more in house than it was Capcom. Like, Capcom isn't listed, so
no, Bandai Namco.
Bandai Namco, sorry. And like, if it was a port, like, it would be listed, but it's not. It's just
it's kind of weird because Smash 4, it wasn't just made by Namco Bandai. They had people from everywhere coming towards it. I'm just like, they point out in this article that like, if it was a port, like, surely it would be listed there, but it's just how, and so that makes me think, and that's like why it would more likely be a sequel. But I think it will be a sequel, like, looking at all that evidence. But
like you say, it just won't be as big a jump. But I think they'll be better just for marketing for Nintendo. It's like, hey, this isn't just a port like Mario Kart was. And I feel like Mario Kart's just like, it's Mario Kart. People are just going to buy it. They don't care if it's a port. But with Smash, it's like, for the core fan base, it's like, hey, here's a new game.
I think it's pretty obvious it's not going to be, hey guys, this is Super Smash Brothers Deluxe. They're not going to come out that. This is going to kick you in the balls and smash your teeth out. This is Smash Bros. They're going to come out. Reggie's going to have Goku hair, just...
And that's the thing. I think last year, was such a big year for the Switch, and so many big, really great games like Zelda, like Mario Odyssey, like Splatoon 2. But this year is more the year of the ports, and I'm okay with that. And third party support as well. And then the big guns of Smash, honestly. Like Smash is just such a big deal onto itself.
Yeah. And who knows what's going to be at E3 too?
Yeah.
They're announcing Smash now. They have to at least show gameplay of Metroid or something like that.
Yeah,
Metroid won't be this year.
I don't think Metroid or the new Pokemon game will be this year.
Oh, no way, no.
I think that's what the next year will be, and all of this is padding for that. And it's like, I'm fine with that. Like, we don't have all the time in the world to play every game as it is. There's so many great games on the Switch that we have time. Like, they're not as necessarily as original or as big as last year was, but last year was ridiculous.
Yeah, and they had a lot of time sitting on these games from the last few years of Wii U as well. Whereas now, yeah, it's still like it's Zelda kind of didn't come out on Wii U, like it did, but it was more of a Switch game. Forget about it all the time, but it's on Wii U.
Yeah,
at least I try to. Anyway, Seamus, thanks for joining me today. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you so much, letting me come on and be involved and tell my story in the way. I hope for you listening, it was interesting. Regardless of whether you want to get into writing more yourself or whether you're just interested in games and the process and how people make this actually happen. Because so often I think it's kind of left out a bit.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear more cool stories of putting in work, you can you can go to the putting in work.
So I feel like every episode it's like, hey, Jonah Peck does put in work.
Yeah. No, but seriously, thank you for having me on and let me talk about and to share it. It's cool. It's awesome for me to have it and very unreal to be published on IGN and get paid and all these things. But to share it with friends like you who back in the day, it's where it's all started, and you and Riley introducing me to Beyond, without who knows what my life would be like if you hadn't. I don't even know.
You'd be working in the coal mine, and you'd be doing cocaine at night time.
That sounds better, actually. Can I still do that? Or?
No, that laugh's gone. I'm so sorry. I've taken that away from you.
I just have to keep doing games journalism. It's fuck.
What plugs would you like to leave for the audience to check out?
Oh my lord, I haven't been on the podcast or anything for a while. So on Twitter, I am Seamus Mullins, Seamus.
I like the originality, yes.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing was, my username online, if you search Seamus Mullins, you'll get a bit of stuff about me. If you search Mully2468, you'll get so much more about me because that's my username for everything, and it was on Twitter for a while. And then that one day, I just decided to check if Seamus Mullins was available, and it was. And then a month later, there's this jockey that's now Seamus Mullins 1.
Oh, right.
So I just got Andrew, and I'm not letting it go. So that's me there. I think I'm Seamus Mullins just on Instagram as well, and I'm trying to post there more just general gaming stuff, when I'm doing articles similar to Twitter, but also just hey, here's a cool indie game that you should check out, and just here's a little publicity for it, even though I might not have time to write about it. Go check it out. And I have my own personal blog as well, which is wordpress.seamusjmullins.com. I'm pretty much sure is the URL. I just did a review of my girlfriend for Florence, which is a really cool game.
Did a review of your girlfriend? Yeah, she's right.
No, we did a review together. My girlfriend and I of Florence.
Yes. Okay.
I did a review of my girlfriend. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think that's my main plugs, and you can check out my work on OK Beast as well. I'm under the username Mully there, and I'll be doing more stuff with them in the future. And you can check out my article on IGN.com about Life is Strange if that's what you're interested in, and I'm be doing more for them in the future, hopefully as well.
Yeah, sounds awesome. And you'll be able to go to all those links in the show notes to find Seamus' work. And you can find Bryce and I at the House of Mario on Twitter, myself at iDruby, Bryce at Bryce DeWitt. And join our Discord to have a chat.
Yeah, I haven't joined the Discord yet. I only just realized recently that you guys have a Discord, so I'm going to jump in on that. I'm in so many Discords now.
Yeah, there's a lot of Discords. Like even mine's just sort of ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, but I want to join. Yeah, come and join me in there as a newcomer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
No.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, Seamus. So we're gonna leave today with our Nintendo jukebox. How we do every week.
Oh, very nice.
My phone's gone dark. That's embarrassing. Gotta put my passcode.
How embarrassing!
Today is by Smooth McGroove. He's got a remix. Spark Mandrill, a Mega Man X remix.
I think it's time to go have some drinks and some food, and we'll leave people to the nice tunes through. Yeah. All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week, day, or just life.
Yeah, enjoy your life. Like, don't get hung up on the bad things.
Just
if you really didn't enjoy this podcast, go for a walk or something.
just walk it out.
Just walk it off. Do some yoga. Like if you go past we'll leave it there. Yeah. Seamus, thank you. You're more than welcome to join us anytime.
Thank you so much. I hope I can in the future.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.